Hi, everybody. How are you? Marian Marino here, back for another Facebook Live episode. This is episode 8. Last week we talked about how change is an ending. So we're doing a three-part series here about change and transition, where last week I talked about in episode 7, which you can find on my Facebook page. We talked about how change is an ending, and that was stage 1. Stage 2 now is the second step in the transition process, and it's really the beginning of the beginning. It's the beginning of where the beginning begins, if that makes sense to you. But before we even talk about that, I'm a certified life and leadership coach, and I'm dedicated to helping women who are a little overwhelmed by change and feeling lost or stuck in transition. And I can really help. I help women get empowered toward a new beginning. And we've all been there. I myself have been through many changes in the last 12 years, and it's really why I do what I do, because I know what it's like. I've been there, and I can help you get past and get to where you need to be. And that said, I am still building my website. I know I say that week after week, but it really is coming along. It is quite an undertaking, and I'm very excited. I actually have a meeting this afternoon with my webmaster, and he's going to show me all the great work that he's been doing, and I'm hoping that I know it's going to be fantastic. What I do know is that I wrote an ebook, and that's going to be on my homepage. It's called 5 Essentials to Managing Change and Navigating Transition, and that's going to be free for you. You'll be able to give me your email address, and I can send it to you, and you can enjoy that book, and hopefully it'll help you manage the changes in your life. So today we're going to talk about stage 2 in the transition process. Now, my friend William Bridges, who wrote the book Transitions, and I know it's backwards because it is backwards, because it's reflecting. Anyway, he calls this the neutral zone, which I don't particularly like that term, but the process of this particular period, sorry about that, I like to call it the rag zone. It's the time where you are reflecting, you're asking, and you're getting. So reflecting on your situation, you're asking questions, and you're getting answers. So this time and this period really happens after you've gone through the change, right? The change has happened. You got the pie in the face, and you're now kind of wiping it off, and you're tolerating, and you're kind of assessing, right? So you've gone through the initial shock of the change, the feelings of fear, anxiety, remorse, sadness, whatever it is you're feeling. Those feelings are still with you, but you kind of got over the initial shock of it, and now you're ready to start this second stage. It's this period of time when you don't know what to do, so you do nothing. And by nothing, I mean you do nothing outwardly, but you're doing something inwardly, right? So this is the time when you're going to start working through your fear and facing your fear. It's a little, people like to resist going there and avoid going to this place, but this is when they say you're facing your fears, this is this time. This is when you start facing your fears, and you identify what scares you, and more importantly, why. And that's different for everyone. But this is where the truth lives. Dealing with your feelings and your thoughts and understanding your why is really where the truth lives, and truth with a capital T, not the truth or the lies that you've been telling yourself. And we say things like, yeah, I'm fine, it's fine, it is what it is, right? We cope, we tolerate, We tell ourselves it's okay, when really, there are other things that are going on and that we are avoiding. So during these times, we could be very busy, right? We could, in order to avoid going inward, we could look for things and cling to things that are familiar, because we're feeling a little disoriented. We're feeling, all of these feelings of anger or fear can drive us to cling on to things that are familiar. Maybe you're throwing yourself into work. Maybe you're socializing with a lot with people who maybe don't serve you well. You're in relationships that maybe don't serve you well. Maybe we're having a couple of glasses of wine. Maybe we're taking some sleeping pills so we can sleep at night. Whatever it is that we're doing, we're keeping busy and we're doing to avoid. And, while being engaged in your career and socializing with friends, those are all good things. But if we are doing it because we're avoiding, then that's another issue. And that's something that you need to explore. And this is the time to do that, because you're going to start asking your questions and being deliberate about the questions that you're asking yourself. So this is the time to really be quiet and take some time, be deliberate about taking some time for yourself. Scheduling time and being deliberate about it. It's baby steps. Everyone knows that I love The Wizard of Oz. And, when Dorothy is in the cyclone, right? And she says, Toto, we must be inside the cyclone. That's the change, right? That's the worry. We're being, tossed around. The familiar things are whirring past us. And, then we get catapulted out of that whirlpool or that cyclone, and we kind of land in this place. And, just like Dorothy, she tenuously opens the door, and it's so quiet, right? After all of the commotion of the cyclone, the house lands in Oz, and it's so quiet. And that's where you need to be, in that quiet zone. And open that door and start to take those first steps out. And in taking those first steps out, you start to ask yourself those questions. Oh, and one more thing, the other thing that tends to distract us is social media, right? So there's all these social media platforms, and it's interesting. Recent studies have shown, psychologists have shown that while we have access to all these social media platforms, instant access to everyone's lives, right? You can post everything that's going on, and everybody does. You would think that it would drive us together, right? And bring the community closer together. When in actuality, psychologists have shown that people have never felt more isolated. It's a very interesting situation, right? A very interesting study. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because people are posting on social media, including me and you. Are we really being real and truthful and honest, right? I mean, if you've ever watched somebody take a selfie, you see what they look like a second before they snapped it and the moment after, right? They're leaning in, during the actual selfie posting, they're pursing their lips, they're fixing their hair, they're leaning into their friends, they're smiling. It's an instant in time. And we're all guilty of it. I myself was sitting here in my sweatpants and my sneakers, which I'm not flexible enough to put my leg up, but I have sneakers on, trust me. And my workout top underneath, because I'm going to the gym right after I finish posting this. So the point is that, we are looking at a snapshot of someone's life. And if you're feeling vulnerable, those little snapshots and those snippets make you feel more isolated and more lonely and more unhappy about your situation. So take a hiatus from social media during this time. It doesn't have to be a long time, but just give yourself a break, because you really need some time to reflect and start asking yourself some questions. You know, what lessons can you take from this situation that you're in? What can you take with you forward? What can you leave behind? What's important to you? What are you tolerating and why? And what do you really want? What do you really want in your life? These are really the important questions, and this is what leading with integrity is all about. It's being in touch with you and your values and what you really want. And that is really what powers you to live with intention. And how you're going to show up in your life should be driven by the values and the integrity in your life. So, you know, this period of time takes, this process takes time and patience. You know, you maybe feel disillusioned. You may feel disengaged or disoriented, right? Because you are looking at the world and looking at your situation and looking at relationships and yourself in a different way, and in a way that you've never been there before. So be patient and be compassionate with yourself. That's why I call this the rag time, because you are reflecting, you're asking questions, and over time, which could be, you know, there's no timeline here. It could be a week you're in this place, it could be a month, it could be longer, it could be a year, who knows? The point is that once you start asking these questions, you start getting the answers that you need to hear, that are truth for you, so that you can get to the next stage, which is the beginning. The other important thing is to keep this in perspective. So while this is not necessarily a pleasant time, keep it in perspective, because this too shall change and this too shall pass. And this is just one step or one time in the bigger process of life, right? And so necessary to go through it. So that's that's step 2 in the transition process. Don't forget to live with intention, lead with integrity, and learn with inspiration. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.